everyone. I was asked this week if I'd share a few thoughts on the value of the pre-board meeting process. In particular, the pre-board meeting between the chairman and the chief executive, and then the one between the independent directors prior to the board meeting. You know, pre-board meetings aren't just something we added to the methodology so that there was another tick box that you had to comply to in order to meet Sirdar's methodology or expectation of a highly effective board. Pre-board meetings are a really valuable part of the board process. So talking about, firstly, the Chief Executive Chairman pre-board meeting. Why do we have it and what's its value? The pre-board meeting between the Chairman and the Chief Executive is to drive the board agenda, to ensure that the board meeting is going to add value, that it's not just going to be a conversation that's held because it's in the diary and there's a few reports that have to be reviewed. Chairman and Chief Executives can add real value to the board process by really considering in that discussion, what are the main topics? What is the driver of the next board meeting going to be about? What is the value the executive team is looking to get out of the next board meeting? As part of that discussion, the chairman should also be touching in with the chief executive on the matters arising. How is the completion of them going? Are they completed? Are they up to date? Is management falling behind? Do they have a challenge with the timeframes that the board is setting? And it should also provide an opportunity for dialogue between the chairman and the chief executive that provides mentorship and support or understanding from the chairman to the chief executive. The chairman-chief executive pre-board meeting should occur 10 to 15 days prior to the board meeting. 10 to 15 days because board papers should be being started to be prepared by 10 working days prior to the board meeting and obviously circulated at least 5 working days before the board meeting. So if the chairman and chief executive meet too early, it becomes sort of irrelevant or not as relevant as if it's closer to the actual board meeting. And if they meet too close to the board meeting, the board papers have already been completed and circulated, the agenda's already been set, and there's a missed opportunity for value add into the board paper process. The chief executive should use this conversation with the chairman as an opportunity to engage on, how do you think I should present this topic to the board? What are the sorts of questions do you think the board might ask? To ensure that the chief executive and his or her management team are well prepared for the board discussion through the board preparation process. Following the board papers being circulated, the board independent directors should meet prior to the board meeting to have a discussion about what is going to be the topic of conversation, what is their input, what are their thoughts on the board papers prior to the board meeting itself. You know, this meeting could happen on the day of the board meeting, it could happen a couple of days before the board meeting, obviously though after the board papers have been circulated. And it's not just a coffee as they walk into the boardroom or a quick chat over the morning tea or the lunch that's served before the board meeting starts. It's a focused discussion on the board papers that have been circulated, on the questions the independent directors have, on their thinking on what's been circulated, on their thoughts on decisions that need to be made, in order for the independent directors to test their thinking, to see where there might be a gap, to see where they might think that they need to interrogate further in the board meeting itself. One question independent directors should always ask at the end of that meeting is, what value are we going to add in the specific board meeting? What is the value we're going to contribute in this board meeting? And obviously if independent directors are struggling to answer that question, they should be thinking about whether or not A, they should be on the board, or B, what is the process, what is the paper activity, what has management done or not done that's meant that they're not in a position to add real value in that board meeting. At Sirdar, we don't expect either of these meetings to be minuted, and there's no formal matters arising that flow out of those two meetings. But there is an expectation that they happen, and that they happen consistently in a rhythm as part of the board process. At Sirdar, we have templates for both meetings that we expect the chairman, the chief executive, or the independent directors to follow in their respective pre-meetings. If you don't have a template to follow, it might be an opportunity to create your own to make sure that there's consistency in the discussion. You know, otherwise, there's an opportunity to engage with an organisation like us. I hope this tidbit, if you like, has given you some insight into the value of pre-board meetings, and trust that your next pre-board meetings add real value to your board process.